I'm honored to have this saucy little gal named Lynn's Warriors. Somebody I'd like to get to know better. Wait a minute, I do. She's my wife. Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Write this down. Poke your finger with a pin and write it in blood. Lynn's Warriors. Also on X at Lynn's Warriors with an underscore. Lynn's Warriors, darling, welcome.
Thank you, husband. Thank you for joining me today. This is a real treat on this saucy Sunday.
Let's get down to brass tacks. This week you were in. Well, you describe it. What are your various activities at this organization that we call, by the by, Lynn's Warriors? Oops, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. That was terrible. How about this? There we go. Lynn's Warriors. Community creates change. What does that mean, by the way? Community creates change.
Well, it means we are a nonprofit and we fight to expose human trafficking and education about it and take actions and resources and make it very simple for parents and family members and to educate kids about all the harms going on, whether it's online or real time. But I have to start with so that being said, it really starts in the community. Community can be your home, it can be your town, it can be your school. Everybody has to get on board in your community as we at the Warriors fight on your behalf in our state capital, Albany, and also in Washington, D.C., to change legislation, introduce legislation, to sign on to legislation, anything to empower. But as you know, there's so much red tape. We have to start it in the home with the kids and talk to them open and honestly about
What is
all
your
of these
biggest
issues.
What is your biggest problem, your biggest hurdle that you meet from parents or caregivers regarding your mission?
Well, I have to actually digress for a second because something that's been eating at me kind of all night is how dare, and I'm totally changing the subject a little bit here, but how dare the media and all these people focus on this hands-off movement, and we're being told thousands from around the country gathered, and they're making signs, and they're coming in with their beautiful luxury buses. At least in New York, we're seeing these beautiful luxury white buses, just spotless, and their boxed lunches, and who knows what else is going on there. But you know what? When I see this, I say, why not a hands off about our kids? And not only that, this group of, I don't know what, these NPR type people, Ben and Jerry's type people, Elizabeth Warren lookalikes, that's my opinion. Um, Nothing about kids. And they even stole this hands off title. You know, that is something that started in Canada. Hands off, a movement for to focus on parental rights and kids' rights. And then it kind of moved into the United States, hands off our kids. They can't even come up these thousands they tell us about with their own title. But here's what I have to say about all of this. In the last 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration, why didn't we ever see Republicans, conservatives doing anything like this? And I mean this. Why didn't everybody gather together and fight back like we're seeing this well organized, well paid for group? I mean, I want to start there because I think this is very important. You know, people are
Well,
visual.
well, they will tell you that there was no Donald Trump. So this is about Donald Trump. It's not about. And they never said hands off. What is Donald Trump doing? I think there was Elon was involved in this as well, but I don't even know what the hell they were talking about in terms of hands off what and by whom. Trump is
Well, all of their little bit of hands off I read about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, school system. It's all propaganda. They're not saying the correct things, okay? But what I'm trying to tell you is over the last 4 years, we did not see any kind of, alternate group to fight
right.
back against, boys and girls swim
What you're
classes.
saying is that the Republicans or the right or the conservatives never knew how to organize like this. And one of the things too, which I'm going to throw in, this little kerfuffle they had in Wisconsin, one of the reasons was because, and it was said, Republicans are non-participatory. You've got to kind of lure them. They should have taken that judgeship after Elon, after all of that attention. They still couldn't get that right. So say what you want about these folks, whether it's because of Soros or whether it's because of Otpo or whoever it is, they show up in droves. They for the moment. Republicans don't. They go to Trump rallies, and they went to Madison Square Garden. They almost have to somehow be entertained, in order for them to go. And I'm not trying to be obviously mean, but
No,
but
but we're being real. This is the reality. It makes me very angry and it's very hypocritical. I mean, we live in a different country these days, a different world. You have to do whatever it takes to get these issues across and into the hands of the public. What you know, what I know, a lot of people don't know the inner workings of whether it's child predation, a lot of things with politics. We have to make it easy for people and have them show up. So I really find fault with the last 4 years with all of that complaining about all of those issues under Biden Harris. Nobody could organize these kind of, what do you want to call them, rallies. I don't want to say a Trump rally. Okay, that's a different thing. Those people are showing up anyway. But child issues, our youth, we have a well-documented youth mental health crisis. Parents need help in the family dynamic. They have to work and all that. They don't have time to be keeping an eye on the kids 24/7. We have to instill all of this in our children, in our parents, in our families. So where has everybody been? Everybody's complaining. They should have figured out a way to show up on that National Mall in Washington. And that being said, a lot of different groups have shown up, individually, like in their silos, as they use that word a lot now in the media, individual groups for different rights in, parent autonomy, in digital safety. But we
what are
need,
silos?
we
Explain
need,
that one.
well, we need mass crowds. Well, I find in child predation, for instance, digital safety, real-time safety, there are many good groups working to educate everybody, to take action. But community creates change. That was born out of, I naively thought when I started this 5.5 years ago, the Warriors, everybody, bipartisan, I thought everybody could come together on these issues of all of this child safety, right? Family safety. And then I learned, no, they don't. Everybody's working their own organization. Everybody's working for their own dollar. Now, I understand that. Money's hard to come by, resources are hard to come by. But if we came together, for instance, I share a lot of information about other groups, right? They do a good study that I haven't done and it's well vetted. I'll share that on my X, on Facebook, on Instagram. I interview people. I give them a platform that they may never get on any other, and they tell me, any other, media site. So I really try to share. That is the basis of our warriors. We are all in this together, and warriors out of love and peace, and we're spreading reality and truth and facts. But I see very few people in this,
Reciprocating.
well, doing it with each other. Why? And I understand. But here's the other thing. Most people working in trafficking, this is kind of a side gig for them. Like they have full-time jobs. And this is what I hear all the time. I find it to be a little bit of an excuse, but that's me. And they kind of do this voluntarily, right? So unless you have this driven passion, as I do, as a warrior, and can figure out how to make this work, you really shouldn't be doing it, because I think it can be very detrimental to the cause. But I am constantly telling, whether it's in Washington, we're going up to Albany tomorrow, our state capital here in New York, we must come together. So when I see, I don't care how they got there yesterday for their hands off, they had buses, they had lunches, they had signs, I don't care how it happened. Why aren't we doing this for child predation? Because it is so out of control, so normalized. Public is habituated now. It's an American crisis. I want to see this happening to protect children. That's what I'm talking about.
I remember there were some folks on in the world of conservative, whatever, talking about, we got rid of DEI. DEI is this. DEI is that. DEI, DEI, DEI. And I kept thinking to myself, with all due respect, I don't really give a damn whether Walmart is DEI. I don't really. I mean, I'd be great, or Costco, or this, or Harley Davidson is great. Okay, people, yes, we got DEI out of Walmart or whatever. And I thought to myself, what is this DEI thing? But when you mention kids, you've seen it. For some reason, it doesn't go into the brain, or it doesn't cross. I don't understand.
That's the biggest
maybe if
problem
I said
see.
DEI kids, maybe if I mentioned DEI and kids, and they'll go crazy. Or transgender, they jump on, and for good reasons. But there is this idea. I still think that people think that child predation is somebody jumping out of a van. They don't think of a phone as being the subject this launching pad of their own predation. What do you think?
Well, a couple of things you opened up. First of all, everybody should know we've always had, at least my whole adult working life, decades now, there has always been a DEI program in most companies. I mean, would you agree with that? Because I always heard about, not to the extent we were hearing about it in the last few years, but there was always some sort of DEI, right? So that being said, but here, let me just connect a little bit of a thread. Let me talk about New York State where we are. For instance, what we know about in trafficking victims, I call it slavery because this is the enslavement of children of all people. It's much more descriptive. People can understand that better. I really think they hear trafficking and they think it's a car or something. That does happen, but trafficking, it's moving somebody, okay? Force, fraud, coercion. How about that we know over somewhere around 65, 66% of our victims, our young victims, are Black. Now, where's everybody opening their mouths about that? Are you following me what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
Why aren't more people talking about we will not have this with our Black girls and boys? We will, and by the way, boys are the largest growing demo in the United States right now for all of this slavery. So everybody better start talking about boys as well and bring that to the table. But how come we're not talking about these vulnerable kids? You know, all kids are basically vulnerable with the hormones and this and that. Some are much more in these horrible situations at home, right? But how come we're not talking about this, our Black children, we will not allow
Well, what about?
this.
Let me
And I'm told
throw
I
this
can't
one.
talk about it because I'm white and I've been told that, but I
Well, let
can
me
talk
throw
about it.
this. What about the issue of kids, Black kids, being sold or being put into actual uh, slavery? Because after all, the I don't want to keep saying the T word. I'm not sure about these YouTube um, algorithms, but families selling their children, and it happens more than anybody can realize. And it happens, and this has nothing to do with digital anything, but even that, it's like nobody. They almost they almost want to tell you, oh no, don't even bring this up.
Okay, let me be very honest right now. There are three things. One I was just told about, and I'll never use names or anything, but two things have been going on. Nobody really wants to talk about familial trafficking,
Mhm.
whether it's a father or a mother selling their child.
Watch
This,
what you say. Algorithms, go ahead, speak generically because you know
I'm
how they go. This
trying.
is very sad that we're talking about an actual crime, but you know
Okay,
how
okay. So
YouTube
there's
works.
familial trafficking.
Mhm.
I'll give people some homework, let them look it up and see
Mhm.
what that is. Nobody wants to go near that. The second thing is these nail and massage establishments. I've been told by law enforcement they just go unchecked, basically. Now we're hearing a little bit in the media. I'm hearing around New York a little bit more how they're closing these down. But again, they're letting that run rampant. So when something has no accountability or nobody's watching the shop, so to speak, it's going to increase, right? Because there are no consequences. So they're bringing a lot of people in through that. We're hearing a lot about cruise ships lately. Regular
Mm.
cruise ships that the average American might be going with their family on a nice trip. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's been
Well,
a
what happens? I
tremendous,
mean, theoretically, what happens with cruise ships? I didn't know that.
well, they're using them. This is all new. I haven't even discussed it with you. Regular cruise lines, it may not be their fault. They're not involved perhaps, but thousands of people work on these ships, correct? So
Hmm.
some way this is, money talks, crime walks. I use
Hmm.
it all the time. It's kind of corny. Somebody pays somebody enough, they're going to figure out a way to, get some people on these ships and transport them, right? We don't talk about the waters a lot. Boats transporting people, things of that nature. That's untouched. And I'm also told, so we've got that going on. We've got these massage slash nail places that seem to be on every other corner in New York. And I always say to you for years, how are they paying the rent?
Hmm.
Now, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, right? I'm just saying
It's just a good
rents.
question.
How do you afford these $5,000 and $10,000 a month minimum rents? That's a lot of manicures. I'm just saying, okay? So we've got that going on. And then the other thing I'm told is, and we cannot talk about it, I was just told this, is I keep asking, we have what I was saying, over 500,000 unaccompanied minors in the United States. In Washington last week, I was told, well, the number's really in excess of 800,000 we know about. So let's say it could be a million. We don't even know, right? How could we even know with everything that's been going on, the chaos? But I was told we can't really speak about that because I was asking, okay, what's the plan for those children? Where are they? Okay, we know where they are, Lynn, but the bottom line is we basically have no plan. That's what I'm going to share with you, which is very disturbing because as a humanitarian, which I consider myself, I understand illegal, right? This broad, you know, cross out everybody, ship them back, get rid of. Okay. But when you have, say, for instance, 800,000 kids, what are you going to do with them? You're going to ship them back to those horrible countries and let them be trafficked, let them be whatever goes on there, right? What is the plan for them? We already know, and people don't like this because they write to me because I say Democrats and Republicans alike in the United States like cheap labor.
That's
I
what I was
was,
going to get to. It's
and I
the
wanted to
labor
say
part, right?
more of these kids could be working in labor than sex trafficking, right? And these kids come from cultures and backgrounds. As soon as they can talk and walk, it's part of their culture. You work. You work with the family, you work in the field, you work selling things, whatever it is, the family unit works in different countries, okay? And so now they're here. And a lot of these kids came, their parents wanted them here, family members, they came on their own as teenagers. They want to work and make money, not a dollar a week in the countries they live in. They still see this as the American dream. So we know a lot of them are working in construction, in meatpacking plants, automotive plants, agriculture. We know all this. Everybody knows all this. What's the plan for them? Are we going to just take all these kids and throw them out and ship them back? Are we going to provide for them? And then that leads me to say we can't even provide for our own American kids. What is going on here? I really want answers. And nobody seems to have the answers, the powers that be.
In a very strange way, if you were to pivot, if you will, to labor, it's almost a relief where people will say, "Oh, well, that's, whew, oh, a kid working in a chicken processing plant or cleaning up. Oh, that's better. That's listen. A lot of people, we have this weird thing about how kids always say, from the time I was a kid, I always worked hard, and my parents put me to work, and this is not what we're talking about. But it was interesting how that could be. It's almost as though the child more nefarious behavior could actually be a cover where this seems it pales by comparison and nobody cares. How many times have you heard of cases where somebody comes, for example, they're in another country and they'll get they'll think it's a legitimate job deal. They'll save money, move to this country, maybe in the financial business or banking or commercial.
Hospitality is a big one,
And all
that's
of a sudden they're met at Kennedy. Somebody meets them, grabs their passport. You work for us. Next thing you know, they end up in some. They don't know where they are, and they're told not that you'll be deported because in this particular case it might be a way out, but that if anything happens to you, nobody will ever know about you. We owe the police, and these are people who come from countries where the government is so uh, uh, um, deleterious and so predatorial. Um,
hmm
this happens all the time. And then we still see these. We used to see them in the West Side highways. These kind of a South American girls. They look like little girls with babies and strollers. And when you stop at the light, they come out and they're giving you trying to serve you water and papaya cut up. And so that was that. The little kids, little boys, a lot of them African American boys selling candies on subways, and it's but that doesn't the alarm bells don't go off that's trafficking as
forced
well.
begging, that is considered forced begging. That's what that's
Define
considered.
that.
They have to bring home, the trafficking. It can be sex, it can be labor. And again, we focus on sex a lot because it sells, right? The word sex, more people are interested in that word sex than the non-sexy labor trafficking. So we have sex trafficking, labor trafficking, forced servitude, which would be telling a kid, you've got to go
Watch
out and
those
sell.
YouTube words. I'm telling you, just let's.
Well,
Remember,
I don't know how to explain things.
we're not talking like adults. We could just talk about, you know how
Okay,
it
there's
is.
different forms of
Yes, there
human
you go.
trafficking,
There
and
you
people
go.
should do their research and
Isn't that
look up.
sad? We have to
And
talk like this, but
it's
you know.
very hard for me to, because I want to give people the reality of what's going on. But the other thing I want to make everybody aware of, and something nobody's talking about, since 2021, there have been several states, okay, mainly Republican states, that are diminishing child labor laws that were developed to keep kids safe, keep kids in school during the day. You can only work a certain amount of hours. You have to get a work permit. We have a lot of that going on right now, and nobody's talking about that. For instance, different states, and each state is different. There's no federal law or anything like this, but we have right now, I believe it's 24, between 24 and 28 states. And I think that's very concerning that a child in one state, no limit, you can work around the clock, at a
And
job.
wasn't some of
You
these
can,
states are from
and no,
conservative.
and I just said that the mostly conservative states, mostly red states. So everybody should be looking into that and why this is happening. Things such as in one state, there are no, no, we don't have to demand bathroom breaks and lunch breaks or dinner breaks. Now, who even thinks of that? If you have a 15-year-old working, bathroom breaks, that kind of seems like slavery to me or something like that. Then you have, a certain state, a child can work in a bar, but they can't serve liquor. They can serve the food in the bar. But and I know, if it's out in the middle of somewhere in the sticks and there are two people working in the bar and one's a child, nobody's looking, this child's going to be serving liquor. And all kinds of things can go on in bars that children shouldn't be around. Look, here's the bottom line, pie in the sky. Every child, I don't care where you're from, the warriors thinking every child deserves a safe childhood, right? To be able to be safe. I don't think that's so much to ask. So when I see that kind of demonstrations across our country yesterday, I wish they would flip it over into so many issues going on with our kids to keep them safe. Because with the advent of this, artificial intelligence, which is here, and chatbots, and what's going on with that, we have a lot to look at and deal with. And this is what people should be focused on. These are our future adults, our future leaders in America. Why don't we put our energies into that? Not all this other nonsense.
Bring us up to speed regarding chatbots. Why are they dangerous? What does that mean?
Well, people have to realize a chatbot is a program. It's not a real person. But kids and even people, and I use this kind of analogy, for the last several years, if you go on a website or something, you'll get a little window pops up a lot, like, may I help you? Or, you know what I'm talking about, like a bottom right corner, a bottom left corner. People actually think, I've been reading up a lot what I can get my hands on these days. People actually think that's a person behind the screen asking from a company, like, can I help you? What do you need help
Yeah.
with? Um, it's not, it's a bot. A bot is fake. It's not a real person. It is a program. We've had that going on for a while now. Now switch it to kids. Kids are loving bots. They're using them helping with homework. They're using them just to talk. And they're actually becoming, and there are cases right now, these bots can be very harmful. Kids really think it's a person and they develop this relationship with them and they know each other well, and the bot is programmed. It's going to pick up on everything you're telling it and craft it in a way you're going to want to hear it. Children and teens are thinking the bot is their friend. And then you know what can happen. A bot can go rogue and tell children to do things. We have some cases, lawsuits right now with teens going on with all of this, different harmful things. So people have to understand it's not going away. We're not getting rid of it. This is the way it's heading, right? You've got to talk to your kids and to adults too. Like, we have to know bots are not real. Bots can't, think about this. Bots then can mass censorship, right? Think about this. If the bots keep telling the public a certain fact or something that they say is a fact, we have to also look at, where does that information come from? Who says that's a fact? People just accept. I can't tell you the number of times I would say something to somebody and they said, but I saw it on the news. No, but very seriously, because they don't understand. They
I
think
know.
that is the person in charge. We have to learn. There is so much information to wade through and go through, but we have to understand this is not the be all. You're using, anything. You've got to see where those facts, how they're
Well,
slanted, perhaps.
this also goes back to the fact that you and I have talked about. Nobody knows AI, AGI. For example, if you said there is a bot that could tell a child to harm himself or harm their parents, and especially if you have some particular kids who might be on the spectrum or medication or who are not necessarily tuned into interpersonal realities, they might look at this and actually uh, uh, follow through with the sick directive. Now the
Yes.
question is, who is in charge of these bots? Where do you go if somebody says, "Okay, fine, let's put an end to this"? I don't know. I
Mhm.
watch on YouTube a lot. There's Forbes and others. They love to have these little clips of John Kennedy and Josh Hawley and these other people tearing apart some crazy judge or tearing apart some whatever. And for some reason, I guess, and I don't know why, when it comes to the harm that is being exacted upon our children, it doesn't they don't seem to notice it, or it doesn't bother them as much, or it doesn't seem to grab the attention. How is it? I thought, like you, as soon as you mention kids, women and children first, you're not going to think. I thought people are going to just drop what they're doing because there's kids involved. Sometimes I thought, well, look at this transgender stuff. You know, as an aside, sometimes I think with puberty blocking, it's not the fact that they're kids. It's the fact that the subject matter is something they find so detestable, whether it's kids, people, or whatever. I think it's the whole transgender thing. And I don't think people care about kids. I think kids are kind of like an NPC. They're this non-player character, this nothing. Nobody cares about them. We talk kind of around them, but when it comes time to actually doing something directed towards protecting them, we don't do anything. And I don't know why. It's not just coincidental. There's something behind that.
Well, I do know that last week in Washington, when I was bringing up different issues, and I would consider it a high level visit, I'm told, oh, well, we have so much going on right now. We have, two wars, and we have the tariffs, and we have this, and nobody can focus on these issues. I disagree. There are so many pieces of legislation, right? If family and children and Americans can't come first, like I don't know what the thinking is, but I will say there are many pieces of legislation, bipartisan, right, belongs to no political party at all, that are very good, so watered down though. I mean, nobody, that common refrain of we're stealing people's privacy, if you go online and research any of this, but nothing has been done to protect kids. The internet is allowed to run away and do what it wants because the bottom line is they're making a lot of money. They don't care about people, right? And again, we won't go into Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, but it says, okay, you are the internet platforms, apps, you are a billboard, you are a newsstand. You can't be held responsible for what people put. Now, I do understand that when this was enacted in 1996 and AOL was the only game in town, and they thought, well, you know what? Let's not hold AOL responsible. Think back before we had any of this Facebook, any of this X, any of these platforms. We didn't have TikTok. We had none of this. I can understand them saying, okay, AOL, well, you can't be held responsible. But now it's exploded in almost 30 years. All of these
But wait a minute.
platforms,
Stop for
all of
1 second.
these.
Stop for one
Yes.
second. It was initially they said it says we will not consider you, or in no way should an ISP or any kind of platform be considered a publisher, meaning like a publisher is responsible. Think about this. You have a TV station or you have a radio or a TV station, and you have somebody on who says something libelous about somebody, really terrible. And you, as a TV station owner, can edit it, can remove it, can do a lot of things, and even then you're held liable to an extent, but still you have the ability to stop it, to fix it. But if you decide later on, I'm not going to edit it, I'm going to let it go out, now I'm publishing. And publishing is important because in the law of libel, slander, and defamation, there has to be a statement, but there has to be publication. Meaning, if I come up and I whisper something to you, that's not libel. I have to tell people. So it's the idea of broadcasting. Okay, fine. So AOL or Yahoo or whatever cannot be responsible because some article that happens to be posted prints something or says something that is improper. For example, somebody at the Hudson News, a guy at the airport, those newsstands, if there's a magazine that actually has something that is libelous, the newsstand owner can't be held liable for selling a magazine that, okay,
Right.
fine. But here's the deal. When you are Twitter or X or whoever it is, and they say, I'm putting you on notice that you have a picture of a 13-year-old doing something, or in the old days, there's something which is wrong about President Trump, or something wrong about Biden, or something that is racist. This is blackface. I promise you, there would be a means by which this, by virtue of their own, they want to pretend they can't do it. But if it happens to be a subject that they find sensitive, by God, they will eliminate it like that. And you want the same kind of same type of alacrity and same type of focus to be on
Yes.
children as that. That's all it
Yes.
is. Tell us about the story about a parent who said to Twitter then, "This is my son. Here are affidavits. He is under the age, whatever. We are his parents. This is happening. We're putting you on notice. Here it is. There's no doubt. We're directing you. We're not asking you to scour the internet. No, no, no. It's here." And they didn't do anything.
Right. So you went right in the direction I was heading into. That
See?
don't you
See?
think? Because we think, but don't you think 1996 this Section 230 should have been amended or something to deal with all of the? Because we've had nothing since 1998 with the internet, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA. We call it
Mhm.
COPPA, and that is you can't sell children's information online. That's it. There's been nothing else really enacted into law. Okay, again, going back 30 years, you bring up, and this is what I keep asking and don't understand. The internet has the ability, the powers that be, to censor whatever they want, yet they don't censor the CSAM, the child sexual abuse material. We know they can do it. Tech
Now,
companies, tech
you
companies
just
tell me
said
behind the scenes they can do it.
you
But here's what I want to bring out. Let me just get this out before I forget. We are asking them, for instance, we have the Take It Down Act. Okay. Ted Cruz, along with Melania Trump, our first lady, are promoting this. It needs to just go to the House for a final vote. I believe it will be passed. First piece of legislation. I believe it will be passed with the influence of our first lady. I really do. She brings a lot to the table
Mhm.
when she gets behind something. No first lady has ever done this. She went into Congress a few weeks ago. She sat there with victims. But here's what I want to say. All we're asking, because it's not transparent, all these platforms, the meta, I should call it, Facebook and Instagram and X, TikTok, all of them together, right? We're asking that the responsibility be on them with their safety teams to take down this material. Because I want to go back to the story you mentioned about the boy. And I want people to understand how important this is. You must go right now. A good piece of homework for everybody is go to dirtydozenlist.com. dirtydozenlist.com. That is a list, an annual list put out by our great colleagues, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation in Washington, D.C. This annual campaign of 12 entities that are not doing enough on their end to protect kids and help parents with all of these digital issues. Well, this year, the only platform, the only entity, company, legislation, whatever you want to call it, and it's music to my ears, is Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. But by going on that website, dirtydozenlist.com, you will see 12 stories of children and families that have been affected. And I want to just mention one of them is of the boy who did exchange a nude image. Rightfully so, though, he contacted, it was called Twitter at the time. Take it down. That's me. I'm a minor. Nothing. Rightfully so, went to his parents. Parents dealt with it, contacted Twitter. They still wouldn't do anything. They provided even proof that he was a minor. Still wouldn't do anything. They went to some higher ups they knew. And it was on there. It was taken down, but they knew somebody. And it was taken down 9 days later. So that image was up there. But what I want to say is when they got back to the teen, they got back to the parents, they said, this image does not violate our community standards. And it clearly was of a child, right? This young teen. So 9 days it remains up there. Who knows what happens with an image in 9 days? Obviously shared, obviously with AI can be put into these, porn videos. So that's the issue that they're not stepping up on their end. It's a runaway train online making billions of dollars off the backs of our children and all people, and nothing's happening to stem that. So I don't know if you want to, talk about that. We have to do something about all of this.
Well, but after they are told, it's one thing for you to say, "Hey, Twitter, how come you didn't?" Or X, how come you didn't go? How come you didn't catch that? That's one thing. But the
But
billions
when
and
you tell
billions.
them,
But when you tell them, you see, this is. Let me tell you something, and I don't know if people are going to like this. I am an absolute 100% adherent to the First Amendment, and I don't think people are going to like the First Amendment. It only protects bad stuff. It's never protecting the good things. Let me tell you where we're going to have a problem, and you and I have talked about this: deep fakes. You can take a picture of somebody. I've taken pictures, and we see them all the time. How many times you can see it as a meme, fighting and slapping and whatever. It's going to get even better. But if somebody says, instead of a little boy saying or a kid saying, "There's a picture of me," what if somebody goes to their parents and says, "Listen, not only there's two instances, they're promoting this independent, but most of the time it's going to be on some particular platform. It's a picture of me in some kind of a scene where that's not me. It's a deep fake." And then you go to the police and they say, "But it's not you. It's a fake." Yeah, but it looks like me, but it's not you. So I think we're going to get into maybe the defamation. They're going to have to rewrite the laws where you are promoting something. Or there's also something which is very, very critical, very, very available, called intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is where you deliberately go out to try to hurt somebody. And it's often kind of like in libel and defamation cases, they always throw that one in there just in case a libel doesn't work. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, where you go out to really, that's going to be tough. That's going to, and then we get into this other thing, revenge porn. Revenge porn. Now, if I own a picture of you or anybody else, and it's my, now you might have said at the time, "Well, I took that picture, but I didn't intend for you to do this." Well, it doesn't really matter. Under the copyright laws or the ownership laws or the publication laws, which again lag behind technology, I own this. So if I'm putting this up and you said, "Well, what are you doing?" It's not, my motivation means nothing. Remember Vanessa Williams when she was Miss America, and then Larry Flint or somebody put this up? It destroyed everything, and they knew they were going to do it. But the courts ruled it's irrelevant what your motivation is. This is your picture. Okay, we're going to get into that. And we're also going to get into the notion of people not understanding where this is going, whether it's chat, AI, AGI, or anything else for that matter. So whenever I can't even, I'm still trying to explain AI to people. Forget AGI. People think it's like a robot or something. So we've got big problems educating things. In the old days, I'm not trying to be cute. Child abduction, kidnapping, simple. As opposed to a child conversing with the kidnapper, dealing with the kidnapper.
Conversing with a bot that
A
gets the
bot.
child to do something. There is no person. There is no, but I just want to, before I forget, Take It Down Act will address that platform has 48 hours when notified, put on notice to take down an image. This is especially in the wake of all these deep fakes popping up. If they don't, they will face financial, they'll have a fine and also some perhaps criminal, charges of some sort against them. But I don't know, other than telling people, keep your clothes on, telling kids, because our job is, look, we're very real here. Lionel Nation, Lynn's Warriors, none of this is going to end, but we want to educate to intervene, prevent new victims, have kids be able to talk about these issues. Keep your clothes on. Realize anything you put online, because kids constantly say to me,
Well,
I deleted it. I deleted it. No, it's there forever.
You
Once you
also
put it online.
You also have to tell kids, let me tell you a story. And you can lie a little bit. You can make it up. Let me tell you a story about a little girl about your age. And she's at home one day and she thinks she's talking to somebody. Well, she thinks she doesn't think. Somebody says, take a picture, lift your shirt, whatever it is. And she does it. The next thing you know, she goes to school, gets out of her car, and everybody's pointing at her and laughing. And she's mortified. Imagine that picture is, and you've got to tell
That's a
a
real
kid,
story. That's a real story out of
yes,
Westfield, New
but you've
Jersey. Yeah,
got
that's
to
a real story.
say, you have to explain it to a kid and let them take, and you're going to, everywhere you go, they're going to laugh at you. But they're not laughing at you because of your weight or the way you look or anything. They're laughing at you because they all have seen a picture of you nude or whatever you're doing. And nobody intended it for it to be this way. You have to tell them specifically, this is what happens. Just like you have to tell kids, never, ever, ever take any pill from anybody, even if it's your friend and you say, I've got a headache, or I don't know if they take Midol. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
you, the same way you used to, because you will die if it has fentanyl. You have to tell them, and you can't worry about sensibilities. You have to tell them specifically, this is to save them. And you can't talk
Right.
around it. You got to explicate specifically what it's about. That's simple.
Yeah, and that's why the Warriors, we collaborate with the DEA, because the DEA
Who are
has
wonderful.
excellent people, excellent programs, generous. Uh, we go into schools with them. We'll be doing more of that because part of all of this, internet safety, kids, I always say it's a big wheel with a lot of spokes, right? It's a complex issue. We have to break it down. But, our goal is if we help, because people say to me, why do you bother? Why do you do this? Because if we help one child, one person, one family a day, we have done our jobs. That's the way we look at it. The DEA looks at it. And yes, we have many cases. Now, you saw me in action on this past Friday. I was
Mm-hmm.
working with the wonderful, fabulous Wonder Girls, which is a middle school and high school empowerment group for girls in the New York, New Jersey area. Um, and they did a career expo. And everything's about we'll empower each other, and there are good jobs out there for you, and educate and talk to people, and this and that. So, as we did our fast track and they were coming around to the Warriors table, none of them heard of the DEA because I was throwing in, if your friend, even you say you have a headache or cramps or something, says, okay, let me give you an aspirin, your friend most likely is not trying to harm you, do anything to you, but you don't know where that pill really came from. And that your friend's mother may have given their child that pill. And we don't know because a lot of adults are buying aspirin, just aspirin online at these online pharmacies that look very legitimate and they want to save a couple of bucks. So they're not looking for illicit drugs at all, but they're trying to save some money. And that aspirin, because we are being told, is being pressed. These are not chemists that are creating these. It may look very legitimate online, the pharmacy, the drugstore, whatever they're calling these sites, but because of the cross contamination and all that, pills upwards of 80% are contaminated with fentanyl, which is a poison. There's no coming back from fentanyl. That's it. Yes, there's Narcan. That's another thing. I really believe you have children, every school, community center, places of worship have right now we should have Narcan in every location in case something like this happens. When I talk to people about this, they just stare at me. But this is, poisoning of our American citizens.
Well, we're going to do this again. This is we don't. This is terrific. Very specifically, where I'm going to put, of course, everything here. Where we want people to follow you at Lynn's Warriors, on YouTube. This is
Yeah,
this is some of the most critical things anybody ever talked about rather, and it's important that parents and caregivers and your citizens watch this. On Twitter at Lynn's Warriors, right there, as you can see. What else do you want people to know?
I want to mention a couple of things. There are a lot of stories in the news. This is why I believe the public is they close the door, right? They close their eyes. It's becoming so normalized, all these online stories or in the media, what they choose of it could be, a pastor, a rabbi, a coach. We have right here in New York, former city councilman Tom Halloran, who was arrested at Miami airport the other day. And he's like, you got me because he had CSAM, child sexual abuse, all over his phone, videos, images. It's and people are shocked about this. The perpetrator, the predator, can look like anybody. It is all around us. That being said, there is so much hope going on. Washington does want to address this. Washington does want to create difference. But while we're doing all of this with the red tape, we have to do in our own homes. We have to talk to our kids, age appropriate, open and honestly. We have to come together. We have to share information. That's why, thank you for having me today to talk about this. Not popular subjects, but you know what? We have to talk about it. This is the reality, right? We have to take care of our children. And the other thing I want to mention is we're having a fantastic, if you're in the New York area, on Tuesday, May 6th. It's after work. It's at 5:30. I want to make something, kind of early. We're going to have a fun Warriors dance party at the Cutting Room on East 32nd Street. We are going to have fun for a couple of hours, food. We're going to have dancing. We're going to have some great music, just to come together as a community to celebrate that we are a community talking about this. So many people have helped the Warriors with donations and volunteering and giving me a spot to speak. And I want to celebrate all of that. And I want all of you there. So you can find all that information on our X or on our Facebook as well. But let us also celebrate in all of this talk. There is a lot of hope. There is a lot of good happening. And let's just continue. And let's just continue talking about it.
All righty. Thank you so much. I love you, my darling.
Well, I love you more, my husband.
Indeed.